Okay, you can see what I want to talk to you about, and you have the brief also before you. Bottom line is, as you see, it's been claimed for some years now that Chinese only have a few number of weapons, and with regards to what Dean said, how can you do compellence with those numbers of weapons? Particularly when you see all these other factors that impact that, and you sort of scratch your head and wonder, okay, with all these factors in play, why is there such a few number of weapons when it's all wrapped in secrecy, deception, and stratagems? And I think there's a growing body of evidence that indicates that Russia has a larger nuclear force than assessed, and it certainly is going to grow bigger. This is a problem. The number of Chinese weapons is closely guarded secret. Limited authoritative statements. It is in fact rapidly growing. It's growing faster than any nation in the world. Their military buildup, not their nuclear forces. The Russians are far ahead of them there. Press predictions have been inaccurate. According to many experts, estimates of Chinese fissile material suffer from a large margin of error, and aggressive deployment of MIRVs is going to result in potentially large numbers of warheads. And again, what are the implications of this for Chinese nuclear force capabilities? I think most of you have seen these kinds of charts before. Key point is, with the advent of DF-21, JL-2, DF-31A, DF-5A, and DF-41, they cover the U.S. Moving quickly through them, DF-5 initial IOC back in '81, but this is interesting, DF-5C in 2018. Why a DF-5C with potentially 10 MIRVs if they've got the DF-41? DF-5B could have 3 to 8 numbers deployed, 10, and we don't know, and they're deployed in silos. For the 31, again, initial IOC back in 2006, slow development, but now we have the 31B and now the 31AG, which is probably a 31B on the new off-road launcher, and also it can carry reportedly 3 to 5. I think it's probably more likely 3. These are the numbers they have deployed. Their production is accelerating, and they may have reloads. For the 41, initial tested in 2012, 10 flight tests entered into service into 2018, long range, could carry MIRVs, could also carry MARVs with high accuracy, may have reloads, don't know how many are going to be deployed. And again, there was reportedly a rail mobile test, and they've got 5,000 kilometers of tunnels to hide them in, and may also be silo-based. The 094 SSBN, there's 5 deployed, 8 reportedly planned. First deterrence patrol in 2015. Here's an interesting statement by Z. Their seaborne nuclear forces need to advance by leaps and bounds. What does he mean by leaps and bounds? What does that actually imply? For the this is the 096 that is going to follow the 094. It'll carry 24 JL3s, supposedly a 2025 IOC. But if the JL3 was tested in 2018, that seems to be a long point in time. So either the JL3, either they expect a long period of development like they had with the JL2, or the JL3 is going to go into the follow-on 094s, or the IOC is going to be quicker than we think. And number deployed, we're just guessing, but it's 6 to 8 probably. For the JL2 and 3, as I mentioned, probably 3 warheads. And on the JL3, it's derived from the 41, so it could have up to 10 RVs on that particular one. For the H20 Bomber, it can carry 6 CJ-20 Alchems, 1,500 kilometer range, 10 meter CEP, They can also carry the DF-21D, which is the carrier killer, and also the ALBMs will be carried by the H6N. I should also note that they've got 128 6s with 20 to 25 H6Ks, and no idea how many will be produced. Okay, this is the CJ-20 cruise missile. You can see its characteristics there. I think the real key point, though, is the HN-2000 stealthy cruise missile that they're developing that'll be highly accurate, and also 2 intercontinental cruise missile concepts. Now, if you're going to go intercontinental, that means you're going to have a very large missile, or it has to have extremely good fuel efficiency, and that probably translates into something like a ducted fan diesel engine. The other interesting thing, supposedly 50 to 200 CJ-20s or the DH-10s reported, and then another 200 to 500 in 2009. 2018, it's still 500. Why? Doesn't make any sense. Okay, this is the air-launched ballistic missile on the H6N. Primary targets, of course, would be U.S. carrier battle groups, defense suppression, and also other targets in the second and third island chains. H20 Bomber, know very little bit about it. That's the artist rendering of it. Think it's going to be a stealthy flying wing design. Rollout is expected this year. First flight in 2020. Enter into service 2025. 5,000 mile range and payload 10 ton at a minimum. Chinese ICs and SLs have the throw weight for significant MIRVing. If you take the throw weight as shown there, roughly about 50% of that payload is going to be for the post-boost vehicle that dispenses the MIRVs. And if you assume one of their smaller warheads of 116 kilograms, I would note that the Russians have one that's, I think it's 92 kilograms. But then that's the number of those warheads that could be on, and as you see there, the 31s and the JL2s probably can't carry more than 3, and yeah, 10 for the 41s and JL3s is probably about right. And in fact, that shows 3 there and 10 here. But MIRVing will enable China's force capacity and capability to rapidly grow. This is another perplexing issue. They've got a fairly large nuclear infrastructure. They've got tens of thousands of people, and they only have a few hundred warheads. Nuclear weapons research and production. They've been developing, believed to be developing an arsenal of accurate, low-yield, usable, next-generation nuclear weapons. Most people think when you talk about nukes, nuke is a nuke is a nuke. That's not true, because the Russians have developed highly accurate, low yield in terms of 100 ton up to 1 kiloton, and those are fundamentally different. And along with that, they've developed tailored effects also, and my suspicion is that's the direction the Chinese are going, whereas the U.S. has also been conducting some test arses mainly in terms of maintaining the current stockpile as opposed to developing any new weapons. And of course, tailored effects, potentially neutron, EMP, X-ray, gamma ray, and so on. For the International Panel on Fissile Material, estimated China had those amounts of fissile material that they could use if in fact they used the advanced design for nominal 20 KT weapons. They could have 878 advanced design 20 KT weapons for plutonium and, what is it, for the HEU, 3,000 odd. And that provides a total of almost 4,000 warheads based on today's estimate of Chinese fissile fuel, that amount that's shown there. However, in the case of China, estimating warheads is still largely a matter of guesswork. China keeps nearly all information about its stocks of fissile material secret, and so we basically have to guess. and Henry can expand on that when he talks. China could rapidly add, in addition to what they currently have, they could rapidly add fissile fuel. They have something like 51 nuclear power reactors will be in operation by 2020, and also by 2020 they will have another 30 odd under construction. That will supply 9 million separative work units per year. That's shown here. And if they have 3 million separative work units left over available for HEU production, and it takes 232 separative work units to produce 1 kilogram of HEU, then in 1 year you got 12,931 kilograms of HEU could be produced. And then based on this chart, whether you're talking plutonium or highly enriched uranium, and whether you're and what yield you're talking about, 1 through 20 KT, or technical capability in terms of low, medium, high. And I think everyone now assesses that China does in fact have high capability, that you could then have 2586 high technical capability to design 20 KT weapons per year out of that amount of fissile fuel. So they could in fact grow rapidly, and also with that yield, if it's boosted with deuterium and tritium, you could in fact, if you wanted to, have 20 to 200 KT yields. And if their 2 reprocessing plants come online, that provides them another roughly 3,000 plutonium-based weapons. Okay, so how many warheads could China have? Okay, starting with the NASIC 2015 forecast and doing some very conservative ICBM production rates. SLBM production was sized to meet the SSBN production, and that's the 8094s and 68096s, and the assumed MIRV loadings that we talked about. Then those are the potential numbers that they could have by 2035. And I would again emphasize that that's a very conservative estimate. But also that is, well, that I'm showing warheads, but both missiles and warheads could either be nuclear or conventional, and with that kind of a capability, I think you're going to see Russia having a very substantive intercontinental conventional capability by the mid-20s, and China is not going to be far behind. Okay, again, China's peaceful rise is increasingly at odds with their assertive actions, as we see. Although the South China Sea, the Japanese islands, in particular their Far Sea defense and protecting China's global interest, such as the Belt and Road Initiative, and they are managing 42 ports in 34 countries. They are certainly expanding their capabilities and their interest, and desires to make China a great power, and they are not going to become a great power without the necessary military capabilities. And it's, I should have mentioned it earlier, the question that we face is, when we look at the Chinese nuclear forces, it's really what mix of nuclear, intercontinental conventional, cyber, because I can destroy a factory with cyber just as I can with a weapon, and influence operations that Dean addressed, and of course space continues to be a major player there. China has built over 5,000 kilometers of tunnels. This is where it's believed their tunneling has taken place. These are some pictures of tunnels. This shows missiles on rail cars. Tunnel, very nice tunnel. Again, rail lines. So what are they putting in those 5,000 kilometers of tunnels? So in conclusion, China's economic growth will fuel the rise of China's power. Their budget is only on the order of, military budget is only on the order of somewhere around 3 to 5% of their GDP, so they can certainly afford it. Their nuclear missile forces will grow to support China's national objectives. And that includes deterring the U.S. or, as Dean mentioned, coercing. Policy, strategy, doctrine is going to have to change to implement that forced growth. And what nature is that going to take? And right now we just don't know. But their nuclear warheads will grow significantly by 2035. There's no limit with regards to fissile material. The missiles are being merged. Hypersonic warheads are being developed. Accurate warheads can be lower in yield, smaller and lighter, and more per missile. Technology developments in advanced nuclear warheads is going to fundamentally change nuclear warfare and force requirements, and I can't emphasize that enough. We have to start thinking in terms of, with the advances that are being made with regards to nuclear warhead technology, what is that going to mean in the future? And also, due to planned U.S. and Russian force reductions, China can match projected U.S. and Russian force loads by 2025 of roughly 1550 strategic warheads if the U.S. and Russia remain in New START, which they probably won't.